Welcome into the very first episode of Best Pod Available. We have done this in many different iterations before. Joe DeLeone, Ryan Roberts. We started with a clean channel here at A to Z Sports to give you our NFL draft analysis. We're going to dig deep into the 2026 NFL draft once a week, every single week. Make sure you go and subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button on this episode to help us hit the ground running, and comment below who are your favorite draft prospects for 2026. Ryan, you excited for this?
I am, man. I literally hopped into the stream and I'm like, this is like old times, right? And we've been waiting to get this off the ground, like behind the scenes, and trying to really format this properly, because I think the one frustrating thing is, Joe, is like we've had a lot of success doing this in the past, right? But it's like we never just continue doing the same podcast continuously for a long period of time. So like, all right, man, let's get this up and going, and let's have a fully succinct long-term outlook, and excited to be able to, I mean, we've been talking nonstop about the 2026 NFL draft, but finally able to get some video content out and some podcast content, which would be good.
Well, let's not have our listeners waiting much longer here, because there's a lot to discuss. Today's episode, we're going to provide our class overview, and then as the month moves along, as we fully transition into the pre-draft process, we'll start digging deep into position groups. We'll start digging deep into headlines. Today, I want to really help our NFL draft fans out there understand what to expect from this class. We always got to start with quarterbacks. This year's quarterback class is a lot better than last year's, but we're sitting here wondering, who's the big dog? Who's the best guy? Is there a blue chip quarterback prospect that can save a franchise this year? The three names that keep getting brought up are Dante Moore, Fernando Mendoza, and Ty Simpson. Lenora Sellers has kind of fallen off the radar because of a bit of a shaky season. So it seems like at the current moment, those three prospects are the ones the teams that need quarterbacks will be going after. Do you think they are solid enough options to be taken in the top 10?
I would be comfortable taking two of them in the top 10. I think there's only one that I would be confident in taking number one overall, though. I don't know if that's fair or not to you. I mean, I guess a good conversation point here, Joe, is they're all very different, right? Like, they're all very different prospects. Like, just quick synopsis of each. Dante Moore is much more of the 6'2", 6'3", incredible arm talent, processing, really clean mechanically. Fernando Mendoza is kind of like that old school pocket passer, 6'5", 225, has enough athleticism to at least maneuver the pocket consistently. And then Ty's like the guy that I just kind of want to run RPO a ton and get the football out of his hand and make some nice throws, like intermediates off of pressure and like those type of things. I am admittedly a little bit lower on Ty Simpson comparatively to some people. So of the two, Fernando Mendoza, Dante Moore are the guys that I would take in the top 10. But here's the hot take, Joe, and I don't know if you agree on this. I would love to hear if you agree or not. Dante Moore is quarterback one for me in this class. That's the guy that I would take number one overall, but I don't know if I would take Mendoza number one overall. That's my hot take, I think.
Okay, so I'm going to be very clear here. I am not going to put any delineation on where guys are ordered just yet, because it's December, and I want to be able to fully dive into this class.
Plant your flag. Plant your flag.
I refuse to do that. I will say this, though. Dante Moore's path to the NFL has been an interesting one. Aside from him transferring from UCLA to Oregon, we also have the fact that a lot of people were projecting, despite having a really good season this year, that he'd go back to school. And things seemingly have changed significantly with his offensive coordinator, Will Stein, taking the Kentucky job. It feels like all signs point towards Moore declaring, and he should. This quarterback class has not established a clear leader. And if he were to declare, to your point, he could be the guy as the process unfolds, a team falls in love with him. I think ultimately of these three quarterbacks, it is going to come down to what teams value the most. I don't think that there's going to be a massive separation between the three. I think all are very gifted. I think all of them are worthy of top 10 picks, but I don't mind you going all in on Dante Moore.
So the fascinating thing is Dante Moore as a third-year player, I can't remember. Did he redshirt in 2024, or is he a true junior or redshirt sophomore? I can't remember if he redshirted or not.
Technically, I think he didn't play enough. Yeah, he didn't play enough, so he must have.
So he's probably a redshirt junior, but if nothing else, he's a true junior. So like he has at least 1 year of eligibility remaining. The other two, Joe, also have eligibility remaining. Now, I think that there is no chance that Fernando Mendoza goes back for another year because he's going to be a top 5 pick, more than likely, right? Mm-hmm. But Ty Simpson's the other interesting one. Ty Simpson is a guy, I want to hear how much you prescribe to this because I prescribe to this a lot, actually. Dante Moore is technically a 2-year starter because he started the majority of his UCLA freshman season, right? So he's played a lot of football at this point. Never bad as a 20-year-old to play more, though, so that's why this conversation of if he should go back or should come out is still kind of prevalent. Ty Simpson's a 1-year starter. Even though he's a 4th-year player, 1-year starter, has 1 more year of eligibility on the table. I think he's the more interesting one of should he go back for 1 more year? Because when you look at the sample size of guys that have played 1 year starting experience on the college level translating to the NFL level, it's a really just not a fun list to be a part of, man. A lot of busts in that group. So I'm kind of curious if he's a guy that does at least think about seriously going back for a 5th year.
This is a really important question for this class. I think if you asked me in October, I would have absolutely said to you, declare, come out. I don't care that the sample size is small. He's making high-level throws. He's staring down pressure. He's showing unbelievable poise. He looked like he had played 20-plus games in October, the way that he finished that month. But as the offensive line for Bama has struggled and teams have relentlessly sent pressure at him, Oklahoma and Auburn did this, we've seen some cracks. We've also seen some fumbling issues in the pocket. I think that concern now has popped up more, and I'm in the camp that I would like to see him go back to school. I also think for the Bama side of things, as much as it'd be fun to see Keelan Russell, I would like for Ty Simpson to be able to develop enough that he can succeed early on in the NFL. The two things that do help him, he's a coach's son. We get to do that bit. His dad's the coach at UT Martin, and he also is going to have a lot larger of a sample size of a 1-year starter than most that fit that description because he's playing in the SEC championship game. I think Alabama has a lot of potential to go on a little bit of a run here. So if he's got like a 15-game season, he'll be experienced. It just still does make you concerned because of that very poor history of guys that have fit that exact qualifier that you're bringing up.
Yeah, it's fair, and it's very fair. And obviously, we're not fitting Mendoza into this conversation because Mendoza is now a 3-year starter, 2 at Cal, 1 at Indiana. So we're not putting him into that conversation. I just think it's really interesting because there's several guys here. Ty Simpson's not necessarily a wild card in this group because Ty Simpson's probably going to go top 15 if he declares. I'm not sure about top 10. Like, he's faded a little bit down the stretch. It really depends on how strongly he finishes the 2025 college football season. We will see. But then you get into like the weird outskirts of who the hell is quarterback 4, man? Like, who is quarterback 4? Do you have an answer? Like, who's quarterback 4? I mean, Sellers, if he declares?
Before we were going to get to the next topic, I was going to ask you this question because I think that you're a little bit deeper into you're a lot deeper into the class than I am because I've been so college football specific focused that I haven't watched as much film. I'm never going to watch as much film as you. Everybody knows this. I'm never going to pretend that I will. Who do you think are some of the floaters if we were to have, and this is not a good name to attach to it, if there was a J.J. McCarthy that is maybe not a first-round guy, I'm not saying that we'll end up sucking, but if there's a guy who isn't really a first-round guy, let's call him a Bo Nix. If there's a guy that's not really a first-round guy that starts to float their way, or a Jackson Dart that starts to float their way into the first round, who do you think that is? Is there anybody out there? Because Sorsby, it's rumored that he's going to get a lot of bread thrown his way to enter the transfer portal and to be a big program starter. Whatever happens with Hoover, you mentioned Sellers, but Sellers would be a guy that I would really love to see transfer and go play for a bigger program with a good offensive coordinator. Like, imagine him playing in Lane Kiffin's offense. That would be freaking nuts. What do you think is that QB4 if we were able to paint that?
I think you just named the two of them. I don't put Josh Hoover into this. Like, I think Josh Hoover has a lot of potential. I liked him in the preseason, but he needs to go back to school. Like, he needs to go back to school. He needs to develop a little bit more. He's not there yet. He's not there. It is between Lenora Sellers as a redshirt sophomore. Do you want to declare? Like, that's the first question. Because
he shouldn't.
Although, Joe, he is, I agree. I don't think that he should. I think he should go back to school. But if he does declare, I think it was Dane Brugler from The Athletic that had him as still a top 30 player or something like that in this class like a week or so ago. Like, the tools are phenomenal. 6'3", 242, can run the way he can, has a strong arm. He can do some things outside of structure that are amazing. I think that the NFL will still like Lenore Sellers, but if they like him, that's more like a team trading back into the back of round one, maybe to take him. So I think he fits the descriptor. The one, though, that I think is the most likely, and it's not fully likely because Brendan Sorsby from Cincinnati, who started his career at Indiana, is rumored that he will either declare or transfer. That's kind of the conversation point that's out there right now. But if he enters, Joe, I think he is the clear riser to quarterback 4 because that kid has every tool. Nothing physically that you need to question there. He's like 6'2 plus, 230 plus pounds. He can move. He has a strong, flexible arm, can throw from multiple platforms. His thing is technical, though, man. Like, he needs a lot of refinement with his feet, with his pocket awareness at times. There are coaching things that needs to happen for Brendan Sorsby, so I would not be mad at him at all if he decided to go back for another year. But for the quarterback 4 conversation, it's between those two. It's a Sellers betting on traits, or it's Brendan Sorsby betting on mechanical maturation. Those are the two guys that I think are the most likely to be the 4th first-round quarterback if there is a 4th first-round quarterback.
So not to completely lock in on quarterbacks, let's take a look at some of the other layers of this 2026 NFL draft class. This is a year where it does not feel like we have a blue chip prospect. We do not have the, oh my God, you have to draft him. He could completely change your team. There's no Abdul Carter. Abdul Carter was the guy last year where freakish athlete, was worthy of getting picked early. Results have been a little bit up and down, stuff that he can and can't control. But a guy like that is highly sought after that isn't a quarterback. I think that there's 4 guys that at least are close. The Jeremiyah Love is going to have a really strong case for being the best prospect in this class. Arvell Reese, the Ohio State pass rusher, has built himself up into a very old linebacker / pass rusher, a very rare, unique prospect, if utilized effectively, will be a menace in the NFL. Jermod McCoy hasn't played a single down this year, and if he had played, maybe he would have established himself as the best prospect this year, and he's so good that he's still being mocked in the top 15 or even earlier of a lot of mock drafts. Yep. And then Caleb Downs is a really good safety prospect who I think gets a lot of buzz. I think that he is not the best safety prospect that has come out in the last 10 years. I think that's Kyle Hamilton because he's just such a pterodactyl physical freak that you're just not going to find. Downs is really smart, and he's a really good player, and he's going to get drafted early. Of those 4, who do you see as the, hey, this is the player that teams, if he's on the board, shouldn't hesitate, have to take him, clearly the best player?
So I think Arvell Reese is a blue chip player. I just think he is. Because we're going to have the debate, Joe. And we did a video earlier this offseason when he was first breaking out, right? Where we're talking about, I was talking about position that he plays. And if you haven't watched him at Ohio State, he plays Mike linebacker. He'll play some will at times. He plays Sam linebacker in some 4-3 personnel. He plays on the line of scrimmage and rushes the passer. People are having this internal debates, or external debate at this point, of, is this kid a full-time edge pass rusher, or is he a linebacker that can just do a lot of different things and you can get a lot out of him, right? And you could sub-rush him. I'm more to the latter there. Like, I don't actually just want to throw Arvell Reese as a pass rusher. I want to play him as a Mike linebacker, and then in obvious passing situations or some obvious passing downs, I can be creative with how I use Arvell Reese, and that's both as an interior blitzer and as a pass rusher at times off the edge. So that kid, 6'4", 245, he is a freak of nature, man. Like, we just haven't seen a ton of dudes like him that could legitimately play 4-ish different positions. Like, he's a little bit of a unicorn, man. So I am super high on Arvell Reese. I've stated this in the past. I will continue to state it unless he has a just plummet of a drop down the stretch of the season. This is the best player in the 2026 draft. Like, he is, in my opinion. He's the best one. We are just in a really... Here's a weird thing. Here's a weird thing that we can move on to Love. I feel like people have said, and I don't know if you agree with this, that the top of this class is bad. But I kind of somewhat push back on it. I don't think the entire class is good. Like, when you get into like the second and third round of mocks right now, you're like, dang, bro. Like, this feels like a lot of day three football players. Like, this does not feel like a great class on day two. But I don't think it's a bad class up top. I think the reason that people think it's a bad class up top is that some positions that people don't use at certain value or perceive at certain value are the positions that are really good this year. Right? Like, linebacker is an incredible class. Really good class. And we're talking about a linebacker, essentially the best player in the draft. Should a linebacker ideally be the best player in the draft? No. But I'm talking about a kid that's a blue chip player, though. And the argument then is like, hey, if he's not the best player in the class, it might be this running back, right? And we're in the modern age of like running backs not being valued high enough. So we're debating if a linebacker or a running back is the top player in the 2026 NFL draft, which I think is why it has turned a lot of people off. Because then some people would even throw Caleb Downs in that conversation. Because then we're debating linebacker versus running back versus safety. That's not attractive. People want to talk about quarterbacks, edge rushers, offensive tackles. They don't want to talk about linebackers, but that's what we've been given this year.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say, is that it's kind of really funny that this year the 4 guys, maybe 3 guys, if we don't want to include McCoy because he didn't play, the players that are the most elite that could go on to be all pros, all these guys have all pro potential in my eyes. They're not positions that anyone would think in their right mind to take in the top 5, especially the top 3. A middle linebacker, regardless of how rare they are, you got to be really special to go that early, and I think that Arvell Reese will. Corners, as good as an elite corner is, we very rarely see them go super early. Safeties, definitely not. And running backs, we will from occasion, but I don't think Jeremiyah Love's going to go as early as Ashton Jeanty will, because there's a little bit better offensive talent in this class than last year, so maybe some teams will be a little bit more patient and a little bit more calm. The thing with Reese, I just want to add in here, I think a lot of people are misunderstanding who he is. I even misclassified him when I was leading him in. I think a lot of people see Arvell Reese and they keep hearing these Micah Parsons, Abdul Carter comparisons. He's not that. I do think that he'd be really good as an off-ball linebacker. He's exactly what everyone wanted Jalen Walker to be. Everyone wanted to take Jalen Walker to be this multi-use weapon, but he was too stumpy in my eyes to be a really good pass rusher and didn't have the eyes to be an off-ball linebacker. So it's been a bit of an awkward transition trying to get him going in the NFL. You actually have the length, you have the size, and you have instincts with Arvell Reese. I do want to just say before we end up jumping over to the wide receiver class here, Jeremiyah Love has every right to go as early as Ashton Jeanty. And I think that he should go that early. I think that Jeremiyah Love has rare explosiveness and has size too that Ashton Jeanty didn't have to be an every down, big play running back in the NFL. But if he goes outside the top 10, it's not going to shock me because teams are going to want to address other needs.
Yeah, I did a mock at A to Z Sports where he fell in a collaborative mock to number 18, Joe, to the Houston Texans, and it felt dirty, man. Wow. Like, it felt dirty because I'm just like, he can't go that low, can he? I mean, again, like, we could have a conversation that he is the best overall player regardless of positional value in this class. Like, he's that special, man. 6 foot, 214, can run between the tackles with power, but he is a home run hitter that can also catch the football, right? So, and he had 500 meter speed coming out of Christian Brothers in St. Louis. So, like, this is a incredible athlete, but we'll see. You know, it's one of those things where should he go in the top 10? Probably. But the Raiders are having this nice conversation now where it's like, I don't think anybody really fought against Ashton Jeanty being a top 10 pick last year, but it's a great running back on a bad football team, right? Like, does that really elevates your team to a degree
Right.
that you're going to value him within the top 10. Like, that's the positional value conversation that we're always going to have. But Jeremiyah Love is special running back. He is, I consider him, and I keep trying to find a comp for him, man, and I just don't have a great comp, but he reminds me of a somewhat bigger Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, he gives me that same profile of, like, explosiveness, short area quickness, like, can create big plays. Like, there's something there, I think. I know you hate the comp. It's fine. He's a very tough player to comp for.
I don't hate the comp, but I'm all in, as you know, on the Darren McFadden comp. I think he's D-Mac.
He's just
I want Jeremiyah Love to be D-Mac.
He's more flexible, though. Like, his change of direction is better than Darren McFadden. Darren McFadden was Darren McFadden was a one-cut, hit it, and a fast guy, you know? Like, Jeremiyah Love's more than just a one-cut, hit it, and a fast guy. Like, he's a quick area guy, too, you know? That's my thing.
Very similar size profile, too, by the way. Darren McFadden was 6'1", 220, and we have 6'2", 214 for Jeremiyah Love. Wait, I want to see his combine.
Are you looking at 40 times and stuff now? Or are you doing
wait. Before we get to the wide receivers, I just really want to quickly pull up his 40 time, if that's.
I think he ran 4.4 something, right?
He ran a 4.33. He ran a 4.33, and he had a 33-inch vertical. Yeah, 4.33. 30. This is on the NFL.com website. Verify what?
I might need to verify that that's true. I don't know.
Verify this. All right, let's get to the wide receiver class here, because, Ryan, I really feel like the wide receiver class is going to be really underrated this year. And I think right now it's very underrated. And I think that we're going to trend towards it becoming one of the strengths of the class. I think that there's an opportunity to see some pretty good first-round volume once teams get their eyes on and really dig into the tape of these players that are currently going as late first-round, early second-round floaters. We can sit here and realistically name maybe 8 guys that could go in the first round depending on how a team values them. I'm just going to throw out some names. Carnell Tate, Jordyn Tyson, Makai Lemo, Chris Bell, Casey Concepcion. That's 5 right there already. There are opportunities to see some other guys in the mix as well, because there's just Eric Singleton obviously didn't have a great season, but there is a chance that I think some of these players could rise, especially if some of these players end up having a really, really good combine, a really, really good pre-draft.
Yeah, I mean, there is a ton, to your point, that could be in that conversation towards the back end of the first rounds. I mean, I would even throw I wouldn't draft him this high, but like a Jeremy Bernard that plays at Alabama. He's a guy that has a lot of fans. The Denzel Boston out of Washington. Like, there's a bunch of them, man. What's funny is going into the year, I remember we both liked Jordyn Tyson a lot. I think we both had Jordyn Tyson as our top wide receiver. I had Chris Bell at wide receiver 2 and Makai Lemo at wide receiver 3. But me saying that was like, I think those guys could develop into first-round picks. They were not like first-round picks before the season. You know what I mean? And with what they've done this year, I mean, all you have to go is pop on the Chris Bell Miami tape, and you're going to be like, oh, yeah. All you have to do is pop on every single game for Makai Lemo and be like, oh, yeah. You know, like, I feel like I'm the Kool-Aid guy with all these guys. Just like, oh, yeah. But I really do think that this is a class that has gone from one guy in the preseason that you knew for sure was a first-rounder to a class that has several guys that you can contend to be in that conversation. Even Carnell Tate. And I think Carnell Tate from Ohio State has a chance to be wide receiver 1. He's going to battle with Jordyn Tyson, I believe, to be wide receiver 1. And then after that, it's going to be Makai Lemo, Chris Bell. Like, what does that order end up looking like? Carnell Tate was a good player in 2024. He's been an elite player in 2025, right? Like, his catch radius that he has, very long arms, ability to win along the boundary, but he has the suddenness to win as a route runner as well, and he has enough long speed to be able to create some explosive plays down the field as well. So Carnell Tate, who was a former like borderline 5-star player when he was coming out of IMG Academy, originally a Chicago kid, that is a guy that has gone from very good player to a elite level prospect potentially. I mean, I just had a mock, and it was a no trade mock at A to Z, but I had him going number 2 overall to the Giants, Joe. And you know what's weird? I think that
It's
number
so
two
early for a receiver.
I think number two is. I was about to say that. I think number two is too early for a wide receiver in a vacuum. But in this class, I was kind of like, you know what? I don't really hate it. Like, the Giants are going to trade back at all costs if they end up with the number 2 overall pick. So are the Titans if they're number 1. But the point is that Carnell Tate has vaulted himself up to being a top 10 player in this class, potentially top 5 player in this class. He has been tremendous for Ohio State. And I wish that we could do this podcast for 2 more hours, because I would love to just sit here and talk about Chris Bell, who is 6'1.5", 227, probably going to run 4.4 flat. Talk about Makai Lemo, who is a great route runner, wins after the catch, and is stronger than you would think for 5'11", 195. This wide receiver class is dope, man. Like, a really pleasant surprise. In the preseason, I wasn't super geeked up about it. Right now, I'm willing to say that this might be the deepest class that we have in 2026.
I watched Carnell Tate before we taped because I'm doing a piece for the Giants on some top guys to watch. And the second overall is too early. I do think that the Giants have to trade back in this class. The guys that are, or the teams that are holding those top picks have to trade back. It's a very weird year in that regard.
Yep.
Carnell Tate, to me, has everything to be a top 10 wide receiver. I was blown away watching him because you mentioned the subtleness in the way that he runs his routes. I think him as a deep route runner, it's almost mesmerizing watching how very just the littlest steps that he has,
like
the
little
detail
head fakes,
required,
subtle things.
Yes,
Yeah, it's great.
It completely manipulates defenders. And for anyone who wants to downplay that, watch what DBs do when he makes those steps. It completely puts them out of position. It's not like a quick little step one way and a DB still on him. Those dudes are lost the minute that he makes those quick little subtle cuts. The other thing, too, that I think I underappreciated, I started to think that he was rounding his routes, and then it occurred to me that he's so smooth at transitioning, not coming back upfield. That's something that I think needs a little bit of work on his regard. He's not like a super fluid, come back to the football type of a guy on a curl or a hitch or anything in that regard, because he's just so long. But when he's running a slant and he's cutting to the middle of the field, he is so good at transitioning without losing speed that it almost looks like he is not refined. Meanwhile, it's the opposite. He's so refined that it's almost unnoticeable. He does a lot of things that you need to really look for that really play out to him being a big-time player. And we were texting about it earlier. He's got a lot of Robert Woods to him. I don't know if that makes him top 10 guy, but he's a bigger, longer version of Robert Woods, which I would argue is more dangerous.
I would say, I don't want to get too weird here, but like he's a Robert Woods on steroids. He's a souped up Robert Woods. Like, I mean, he's sure. Robert Woods in how he plays, except he's bigger, faster, stronger. You know what I mean? Like, it's pretty wild, which is why he's going to go super early. Because for people that don't remember Bobby Trees, like Robert Woods was a really good player, like 1,000-yard wide receiver in the NFL. Very good football player. Here's the cool thing, Joe. We got a couple freak shows, obviously, right? Like Chris Bell. But this class, a lot of great route runners too, man. Like, I don't want to underemphasize that. Like, you talk about Carnell Tate as a route runner. Makai Lemo is a pristine route runner, man. Gets in and out of his breaks so well. Understand how to attack blind spots. So does, I mean, who's the better route runner, him or Casey Concepcion? Like, it's a very interesting debate. Like, that's how many good route runners we have in this class. And I really, man, I would be so excited to have, for me, Carnell Tate, Jordyn Tyson, Chris Bell, Makai Lemo, for sure first rounders. Like, I wouldn't even think about it. Like, yes. And then after that, okay, actually, I would throw Concepcion in there too. I would be so okay with drafting Casey Concepcion in the first round. So right. So, like, that's 5 guys off the top of my head that I'd just be like, yeah. Denzel Boston, more of a day 2 player for me personally, but like this wide receiver class has really rounded into 4 without question.
Moving over to the defensive side of the ball, in the preseason, we were projecting and saying, hey, we need a lot of these guys to take a step forward. I think for the most part, Peter Woods didn't really give me that step forward, the Clemson defensive tackle. Keldric Faulk kind of stayed the same but from Auburn, but he's still a really good defensive end. Rueben Bain gave us an early step forward, but I still question what position he's best going to succeed at. I really think he could be better as a Kalijah Kancey type of a guy instead of having him play as a defensive end. I think that he's too thick, and he would be a really damn good 3-tech, like a really good 3-tech, a productive pass rushing 3-tech.
Or maybe just like an odd front edge, right? Like where he's playing like 4-4-I at times, like he's playing some 5 in certain fronts. Like I think he's a versatile kid, right? Like because he's not long, but like he's so powerful that he can make up for not being the longest guy in the world in short spaces. My issue with Rueben Bain has always been quite simply this, Joe. That kid is relentlessly powerful, explosive as all hell, but I don't think that he has great length. I know he doesn't have great length, and I don't think he has great closing speed either. So when you don't have that ability to cut down on space and finish plays, my biggest issue with Rueben Bain is I think he's going to cause a lot of chaos, but I don't think he's always going to have great production or finish a lot of plays. And I know there's going to be a heavy debate on that, like the quarterback hurries versus sack production. I don't really want to get into that right now. My issue though with Rueben Bain is I don't want to draft a kid in the top 5 that I'm worried if they're going to consistently finish plays. Like that's not the guy I want. I want guys that create havoc and finish plays. Like I need both in this reality, but it's a wild card group if I've ever seen a wild card group because we should prepare ourselves. And I'm saying this in December. Prepare yourself for this. David Bailey from Texas Tech, the Stanford transfer defensive end, is probably going top 15. He's probably going top 15. Just prepare yourself there. Peter Woods.
So
yeah.
Wait, I want to hold on one second. So I wanted to when you jumped in on Bain, I wanted to say this about Bailey. I think that out of any of the guys that we were looking for in getting the massive step forward, it was the guy that we were least expecting. It was a guy that wasn't even really on the radar that we had talked about in the preseason. He was really raw. It was kind of funny. He had like this creative player type of a look to him because he doesn't wear any gear. He doesn't wear any tape. He doesn't have any arm sleeves. He doesn't wear any gloves. And he's just out there wrecking dudes. He took the step forward. That was the guy that we were looking for and we were waiting for. And what you were just saying, I think Bailey has solidified and established himself as the guy who's going to be that first edge off the board, that first defensive lineman off the board. He's the one who made the leap necessary in order for himself to project to go that high. And I think that we need to start really having that discussion because everyone else has a lot more question marks, I think, than Bailey does.
Well, it's interesting because the guys that we knew about, right? People were always higher than me on Rueben Bain, but like Rueben Bain is ascended this year. He's been much better in 2025 than he was in 2024, for instance. But he has question marks, right? Because of that finishing ability. Keldric Faulk is a freak show, man. 6'6", 280, moving like that. But he had a really down year from a just backfield production perspective. It's still not bad film, but like he just doesn't finish enough for X, Y, and Z reason. Part of it's bad coaching, part of it's a bad scheme, but part of it is like, hey, Keldric, like you need to finish more plays, man. And then Peter Woods was invisible a lot this year at Clemson because they were a bad football team. So the guys that we thought were going to ascend did not, or at least stay the same, did not. The problem with the guys that did ascend, though, David Bailey, I'm okay with being drafted high. Why, Joe? Because scouts estimate, and we don't have an official on him yet, but they estimate him to have between 34 and 35-inch arms. So, like, he's long and he's explosive, right? Like, he's long and he's explosive. I'm there with David Bailey. He's never going to be a great run defender, but in the world of pass rushing, I'm cool. The issue, though, after that is the guys that did ascend, and Caleb Banks is another guy that didn't have a chance to ascend because he's been banged up all year for Florida for the most part, right? Other guys that did ascend have major question marks. Major. Cassius Howell out of Texas A&M has 30.5-inch arms. Is he going to be a guy that you're willing to take high in the first round with 30.5-inch arms and a pure outlier? We also can talk about guys like Romello Height, who is also at Texas Tech, who's the teammate of David Bailey, another guy that is probably in the 230s as an outside pass rusher. Some of the guys that took a step forward are not the toolsy guys that we usually see take that step on a year-to-year basis.
Yeah, I think that the way that we're going to kind of see this class unfold is that there's going to be some development in the approach of like, okay, these are the guys that will go early. And I think that the rest, you mentioned a couple of examples with Cassius Howell, who I really like, but he's not super big. Romello Height is intriguing, but he's also not super big. It's going to be an approach, I think, of teams going after what they want to add to their defensive line room. I do think that there's almost a lot of guys that feel Donovan Ezaraku-esque, if that makes sense. Remember last year, Ezaraku's done really good with the Cowboys. I don't think his impact works with every single team. Mm-hmm. And him going where he did in the second round was a good projection, but he was getting some buzz for being a late first rounder. I think there's going to be a lot of those dudes where we'll have 4 or 5 guys right before the draft that are getting mentioned, that are getting brought up in discussions, and then one moves ahead of the pack, and the rest of them end up going on day 2.
And we still stand our Mason Thomas on this podcast. We still stand him, man. Oklahoma pass rusher.
Yes.
He's another guy, though, man. He's going to have like 32-inch arms, Joe. It kills me inside to know some of the measurables on these guys, man. It kills me.
Yikes.
But, yeah, I mean, I'm hoping – look, Keldric Faulk's going to go top 10. And he might go top 5 because he's still a freaky dude. Rueben Bain's going to go top 10 because of the ascension he made this year. Peter Woods will probably still go top 15-ish because of the talent that he has. But, yes, the defensive line class is a complete guessing game with some intrigue, but – a couple of the guys that you thought were going to be the headliners of the group, unfortunately, did not take that next step this year.
All right, let's wrap up here talking about these offensive linemen. This was a group that has been really, really disappointing. If you're a team that needs an offensive lineman this year, don't reach. Don't reach. This is not a class where it feels like there are viable options. The one guy who I thought had the most potential to rise and to do the most damage was Carnell Tate from Auburn. He gets hurt. Serious
Who's very
injury.
good, by the way. Who's very good. Yeah. Who's very good. Yeah, I know.
So that one's going to be a pain, trying to figure out what the heck we're going to do with Carnell Tate. Lomu stuck right where he was, and it doesn't feel like he lived up to what we were hoping to get out of him. His teammate Spencer Fano had a really good season. But is he somebody that's worthy of going in the top 10? Not to mention the fact that he's a right tackle. Can you project him to play left tackle? Where do you truly see him fitting? It almost feels like this class is more guards than tackles.
Oh, yeah.
I think that there's like a lot of really good guards in this class. And it wouldn't stun me if we don't see more guards go in the first round than we see tackles.
Well, that's a take. I mean, because it depends on... I don't think I necessarily disagree with it. It depends on what teams think of Francis Mauigoa out of Miami, for instance, right? Where like Mauigoa for me would not be a first round offensive tackle, but he is a first round offensive guard all day, man. Like super physical dude, right? You have down in the notes here, Joe, who is offensive tackle 1? Who is offensive tackle 1?
Yes.
I have no idea. I keep doing Spencer Fano because I think he's cleanish of a prospect, right? Like he's clean compared to some other guys. But I still like Caleb Lomu more, I think. I still think I do. I haven't finalized my grades on the Utah tackles, but I don't know, man. I mean, Carnell Tate is the best offensive lineman in this class, in my opinion, him or Francis Mauigoa. But again, to your point, it's back to the initial conversation we had in the beginning of the podcast, though. You want to talk about offensive tackles when you talk about the offensive line class. Like you want to talk about these big starting left tackles on the NFL level. We're going to get the second contracts. We're talking about interior offensive linemen. Does it make Carnell Tate not great? I think Carnell Tate could be a Pro Bowler if he stays healthy. I think Francis Mauigoa could be a Pro Bowler if he stays healthy. But it's not sexy to talk about interior offensive linemen. It's not fun for a lot of people to talk about interior offensive linemen. But if you need a good guard in this class, you're in luck. You're in a good spot, but if you want a franchise-changing left tackle, I shouldn't even say franchise-changing. If you want a starting left tackle for a long time that's a plus starter, I'm not sure if this is the class for you, man. Like, there's going to end up being a guy or two that ends up being that, but, like, there is definitely, like, no foregone conclusions of guys that I feel great about today starting in 2026 and being a plus starting left tackle. I don't see it.
This draft class is going to be really interesting to track. We're really excited to dive in. Again, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on any of these episodes. Hit the like button on this video, at Joe DeLeone, at Rise and Draft. We'll talk to you guys later.